Hello, I'm Mark, and I'm going to first publicly tell my story about brain fog, which started occurring about 12 months ago. I'm not used to this 15 seconds. So this all started about 12 months ago, and I was organized a research retreat on Orcas Island with my friends, mainly research colleagues from Europe. But amidst this relaxing, serene beauty, big problems were revealed the next day. So as we began working over some of our research then, topics and writing a resubmission for an NIH grant, it became difficult for me to recall my details, my main research topics. It was difficult to type up summaries of my discussion. Actually, I had to kind of hide. I was doing so poorly, and I had a feeling of being in the fog, and I couldn't quite recall items at all. So just before this research retreat, I decided to have a general medical, physical, and a cardiology evaluation. I visited my primary care MD, visited my cardiologist, and they told me that, Mark, all your values are normal, and you're very fit and you're healthy. You're a triathlete. So they all knew I was a competitive triathlete, and it really kind of, in some ways, bothers me and masks that I might have some underlying disease. So what I decided to do then is that it was pretty clear I didn't have any kind of obvious disease, but I decided that I should, on my own then, start tracking some blood biomarkers. So I investigated it, and actually from a QS meeting earlier, and there from their website, I found out about a company called Sectera, which has Inside Tracker. An Inside Tracker then has 20 to 30 biomarkers, blood biomarkers that you have taken at a baseline, and then the idea then is you can optimize those biomarkers and then track and then have your blood taken again. So I had the performance package, 20 biomarkers. I found out that my LDL was too high. It was actually quite a bit too high. My vitamin D was too low. So then I set out to start optimizing those biomarkers. One of the really cool things with Inside Tracker is they have this huge database of all different kinds of foods that you would eat more or less of depending upon your serum biomarkers. The other thing I decided to do then, and I'd thought of for 4 or 5 years, but I'd been discouraged from doing it, was to order on my own an optional coronary calcium scan. And what I found was that I actually had marked calcification narrowing in my main coronary artery. I emailed my cardiologist a couple hours later, and he said, you've got to go on you got to do something right away. I didn't expect this. I ordered also some additional genetic tests from 23andMe, which I'd done 4 or 5 years earlier, but all the newest ones that had some other new biomarkers, gene markers. So I found out that I was a carrier for the ApoE4 gene. Only 12% of Americans have it. Increased your risk of Alzheimer's by quite a bit. And if you have 2 copies, it goes up 30 to 40 times. It creates a really, really big defects in your ability to process saturated fat, and it increases your risk for heart disease. So with that, then the next day I adopted a low saturated fat diet, much more fruits and vegetables and nuts, stopped eating all cheese, butter, high saturated fat, made some other substitutions, and actually made 20 total changes in my life then. And it took a lot of effort at first. So then with that effort, I was able to have my LDL go from about 130 down to about 85 after about 8 weeks. So I was feeling good about that. However, I still had some brain fog. So I emailed an MD neurologist friend, and he said, well, why would you have memory problems? And, I'm only 55. And he said, well, either the people usually have depression, and that wasn't present. They have medication side effects, or they're overly concerned about common usual memory problems. But I knew there were real problems. So then a few months later, then I told my primary care MD about these memory problems, and they weren't going away. And so I was referred to a neuropsychologist. I had 4 hours of neuropsych tests done on December 26, 2013. I had 2 days of great rest. I thought this is as good as it's ever going to be. One of the tests I took was name as many words as you can, starting with the word F. And that's when I knew I had big problems. I could only name 9 words in 60 seconds. And I probably know 500 words or more that start with F, but I could only pull up 9 in that time. So this is some of my neuropsych, some of the results that I got from the neuropsychologist. And so you can see there's one borderline on this part of the test, and luckily I have some that are superior, which hopefully that I have some. But then you can see there's some reds here, and it was in fluency and Stroop testing and some other things where I actually had mild impairment. So I'll never forget the email and getting these results. I was actually in Hawaii with my family, and so I had a couple days there thinking, well, maybe my life's over. And she said, well, you have early subcortical white matter dysfunction. You don't have Alzheimer's encoding defects. But the bottom line is I had atherosclerosis of the small vessels of my brain, likely. So it slows transmission and recall of stored information in your brain. So this is from a New England Journal of Medicine article, and you can see that I'm the red star here, and so I'm above average, but you can see there is this decline for everybody over 50 in the room. It's happening to all of us. But my long-term memory was actually pretty good. But then my language fluency, here's the red star here, is you can see right in the middle, and this is actually an average for people from about 40 to 75 years old. So my memory's fine, but my word retrieval was mildly impaired. So the next step then was to do an MRI of my brain. So on the left is a normal brain, and then on the right is Alzheimer's disease. So you're waiting to go and get your results, and it's a long couple days there, and I'm lucky because I get the results almost immediately because I'm in the medical system. But this is an example of hyperintensities and white matter dysfunction on both the left and right, one milder and one more serious. But the good news was that my MRI was completely normal. And it was a huge relief then to know that even if I have some white matter dysfunction, it's not severe. So I searched for all available scientific data on this subject, and there's really surprisingly little about white matter dysfunction, which leads to vascular dementia, different than from Alzheimer's. So this is a self-reported global cognitive function versus LDL and statin, and you can see then that I tried resveratrol and then also statin. And that's when, in the blue line here, there was this real noticeable difference in January and early February. And I also was able to just track some of my really high-level science activity. And you can see that within a week or so after of really feeling better, I actually got a lot more work done too. I tracked a lot of other variables like mood and depression, body weight, physical activity, physical fitness, daily blood pressure, and they didn't really seem like they played as much of a role. So then to summarize, the main effects of what I found then were that resveratrol seemed to slightly help. The statin medication, I was told it could cause memory problems, but actually 15 days later, approximately, things were much easier. And I just got my neurocog tests for 3 months later, and they also show improvement. And my LDL got better. And you still have my extra slides in there too. I think I'm over 30 slides. Will the next one come up? No.
Well, we probably should just.
I don't want to break any rules. Oh, so you got my FitBrain app in there too. So now I use an app called FitBrain, and I'm over 7.5 minutes. I don't want to break any quantified self rules. But that's my talk. Thank you very much.